How's it going, my dudes? This video's brought to you by Squarespace today. This is a show that lacked a lot of the technological advancements that the earlier Star Treks had, ironically, but it then made up for it with some fairly inventive kills. It did tease us. I mean, they only killed the first crew member in its third season, but boy howdy. Did the Angel of Death, Jonathan Archer, make up for lost time. He, in fact, has the dubious honor of being the captain with the most deaths under his command at this point in history, so congratulations. This list is only 10 entries, but there could be sequel lists for Enterprise. I mean, 18 entries alone could come from the Battle of Azati Prime. So make sure your will is in order, get everything straight, and join me, Sean Ferrick, for TrekCulture as we go through the 10 most messed up deaths in Star Trek Enterprise. Number 10, first past the struts, anomaly. Sometimes it's really okay not to be first in class. That's gotta be what Fuller was thinking in the infinitesimal moments before he hit the deck in Anomaly. Credited as Enterprise's first fatality, Fuller has the honor of being the first in something. Probably didn't feel like much of an honor though. When Enterprise was boarded by Osarian pirates in Anomaly, Fuller was shot at point blank range in engineering. So most likely he was already dead before he hit that deck plating. Small honor, I guess. In dialogue that would be omitted from the final episode, Reed would go on to lay the melodrama on thick. Fuller apparently had been handpicked by Reed to serve on Enterprise. They had done their training together, and Fuller knew way more about photon technology than anyone else on the ship. He also had a young daughter who sent a letter to Reed asking that he please keep her daddy safe. We'll assume he didn't ignore the letter and simply hadn't read it in time. Poor Fuller. File this fella under another example of just someone trying to do their job in a galaxy hell-bent on wiping out humans. Number 9. Killed to shock the audience, these are the voyages. I mean, you knew this death was going to be on this list. So we now come to a death that was so ill-conceived that even the writers agree that it was a bad move. This came at a time when Enterprise had been cancelled, there was no foreseeable future iterations of Star Trek, and they decided they were going to shock the audience. Charles Tucker III got the short straw. In what's becoming a bit of a theme, some pirates board Enterprise. Trip managed to defeat them by blowing up a power conduit, although this cost him his life in return. He certainly went out in heroic fashion, but at what cost? Star Trek has got a habit for fumbling the ball when it comes to main character's death. Hashtag prayers for Jadzia, hashtag yeet yar. Here, you had the issue that there was no chance for continuation, so you didn't even get something like yesterday's Enterprise for Yar, or even Ezri Dax's arc in the 7th season of DS9. Trip does survive in beta canon, so it does a lot of heavy lifting here, but on screen, that's it. Here's something I really never expected to say. Thank God for the very short treks. Number 8. Mountain climbing accident in the space age, first flight. In the 22nd century, mountaineering was still quite a dangerous sport. By the 23rd century, those rocket boots allowed Spock to hover beside Captain Kirk on El Capitan. But poor old A.G. Robinson did not have access to such technology. The episode First Flight posthumously introduces him as a rival of Jonathan Archer's. He was up against the latter when it came to captaining Enterprise for the first Warp 5 flight. However, obviously Archer won that battle, so Robinson remained behind on Earth. Robinson was killed in a mountaineering accident. Now this just feels like sheer bad luck in the age of, well, yeah, transporters were around at that point, but was there no safety net? One does have to wonder though, is it a case of hubris? Perhaps there were safety nets in such technology, and perhaps Robinson just elected not to use them, like a certain captain of the Enterprise would choose about 100 years later. This was Enterprise's second season, and it feels like an odd decision to kill off someone who was so historically important as an almost ran. We will remember you, Robinson, maybe not for your climbing skills, but certainly for your inspiration of a certain Jonathan Archer. Number 7. Death by decompression right outside her front door. Azati Prime. Taylor was one of Trip Tucker's crew, and she was killed during the Battle of Azati Prime, when the section she was in decompressed, blasting her out into space mere inches from her quarters. But that wasn't the end. Trip, racked with guilt, was visited in his dreams by Taylor. Taylor herself sort of standing in for all of the officers that had been killed. Trip then saw through her all of the wasted potential, and Taylor became something of an avatar for how commanding officers dealt with, or failed to deal with, the deaths of officers under their command. Trip's dream is stark, and it's depicted in hues of cold blue. Taylor understands in his dream that it is by no means Trip's fault that she was killed. When he tries to remember something about her, all he can remember is that she was going to make a very fine officer. He, in fact, headhunted her, and these details don't come to mind when he's trying to remember her. Taylor may not have had the biggest role in Enterprise, yet this small appearance here helps to force Trip, and of course the audience, to deal with the nameless red shirts, if you like, who die on the various Starfleet missions. While her cameo, if you like, might have been tiny, this scene was crucial. Number 6. Assimilation before it was cool, regeneration. How messed up must it be to be assimilated before the Borg were even invented? That's just damn unlucky, if you ask me. I know assimilation isn't exactly death. Look at 7 of 9, look at Locutus, look at Hugh, but when one is assimilated, they are enveloped into the hive mind, and all traces of individuality are stamped out. So if assimilation is not physical death, then it could well be described as death of the soul. When the Borg were reawakened in the Arctic Circle, time travel, just go with it, they very quickly overpower and assimilate the research team. This led to them taking a ship, assimilating a Tarkalian set of traders, and very nearly assimilating Dr. Phlox. Enterprise was tasked with hunting them down, something that they were badly unprepared for in the 22nd century. Though these drones are destroyed, there's little more horrific than living life as a drone, aware of what's happening around you, but not able to affect it in any way. That is to say, in the 22nd century, it seems awful. In the 25th century, it seems just great. But in the 22nd century, it was stark, it was horrible, and it was the death of freedom. Regeneration, and I've said it before, was meant to do one thing: make the Borg and what they do terrifying again. Number 5, massive cellular disruption, Daedalus. When one is killed in the line of duty, look, there's rarely a good way to go. Some, sure, might scream about death and honor and glory, but you're still dead at the end of the day. What you could hope is that your death will contribute to a greater good, and you have to wonder if Burroughs had time to think about that in the few seconds that he had. When Emery Erickson came aboard Enterprise in Daedalus, he was heralded as a genius. He was the human inventor of the transporter, and his inventions had directly contributed to space travel. Unfortunately, his actions and inactions also contributed to the death of this young officer. Burroughs was killed by a manifestation of Quinn Erickson's transporter signal. Erickson, son of the inventor, was lost in a subatomic transporter accident, though his transporter pattern continued to exist as disturbances in spacetime. Emery Erickson concocted a plan to bring Enterprise out to the Barrens, an area of space in which the accident first took place. Rather than saving his son, Erickson's plan contributed to the death of Burroughs. His cells, melted as they were, resulted in a gruesome tableau for Reed to find. This was a sad coda to the legacy of one of humanity's most brilliant minds. Number 4, Daniels gets melted, Stormfront Part 1. Agent Daniels, or crewman if you prefer, has had a long and varied career. Long before he was rubbing elbows and shaking hands with Michael Burnham in the 32nd century, sure, he was palling up to Archer in the 22nd century. He also nipped back to the 20th century, but that didn't really work out so well because he was melted horrifically and died. Whoops. Daniel's body was effectively torn into pieces across different time zones, even though he was still physically one. This was due to the temporal Cold War, which was at that point coming to its zenith, and with a little bit of spurring on from the not cool, with some help from the Nazis. They really are bastards, aren't they? He stunned Dr. Phlox, bursting into sickbay with the denobulan unable to save him. It was a quick, awful death. and it was a sad ending to Daniel's legacy. Well, that is until Daniels 2.0 popped up in Stormfront Part 2, congratulating Archer on ending the temporal Cold War and bringing everyone back to life again. Woohoo! I do love it when a bit of temporal jiggery-pokery just fixes stuff, don't you? Number 3. Death by Faith, Terra Prime. Masaro was a member of the extremist group Terra Prime. Though his actions led to a lot of suffering and death, you could also say he was just a stupid, disillusioned kid who got swept up in something bigger than him. He provided the genetic material to Paxman that resulted in the birth of Elizabeth, and also sabotaged a shuttle pod which could have led to several deaths. Masaro had been a crew member aboard Enterprise for some time, while also being a member of Terra Prime. He was injured in the Battle of Azati Prime. Take a shot for every time I say Prime. And though he was injured, he did, of course, survive that attack. Now, whether his survival was beneficial to history is, well, it's up for debate. He may have been a capable crewman, but he was a spy at the same time. Masaro takes his own life when he's discovered. And look, on the one hand, it'd be easy to say, oh, sure, listen, easy escape. But more accurately, it is a desperate move by someone who feels himself pulled into a corner, unable to see the light for the trees, and left with only one option. That it happens directly in front of Archer's eyes can be nothing but traumatizing for the captain. When added to the sad events around Terra Prime, this is just another wasted life thrown away for believing the worst in the galaxy. Number 2. Killed to harvest their organs, Similitude. Similitude works so well because we, the audience, care so much about Trip Tucker. One might wonder then as well, why should we be so upset about another character's exit? But it's the brilliance of Connor Trinneer's performance that really sells it. Sim is a clone of the Floridian engineer, created for one purpose. They're going to never let me go him, harvesting his organs, killing the clone in the process. It's a stark reality of the 3rd season of Star Trek Enterprise. No one is expendable, provided they have a critical role to play. Sim did have a critical role, but it was a finite one. Hearing the man plead for his life really evokes memories of Tuvix, which was probably the writer's intentions, but his acceptance is just as crushing. You see, his number is up. Either he is killed and his organs are harvested, or he will rapidly age and die anyway as per Phlox's design, resulting in the deaths of both Sim and Trip. Between this and Velton Ray Bunch's haunting score for the episode, Similitude is a difficult watch. We understand why this had to happen, but it's still hard to sit through. Sim may have wanted to live, but the cost outweighs the will. Number 1. Killed by dialogue, The Forge. We now come to another shock death in Enterprise, take a shot, and we discuss the sad fate of Admiral Maxwell Forrest, the only recurring/main character in Enterprise to have the ignominy of an off-screen death. Technically, we do see the explosion that kills him, but it's only later on we find out via dialogue that he's gone to meet the great bird of the galaxy. Vaughn Armstrong has died several times in Star Trek, but this was the first ongoing character that he played who bit the dust. Forrest had easily shown time and time again that he was a dependable officer, and he had stood up for, and sometimes to, Archer as well. He was, in no uncertain terms, the man probably most directly responsible for making sure the Warp 5 program got and stayed greenlit, which means without him, it would have died in its infancy, almost certainly dooming the human race when it came to things like the Xindi. To discover that he had been killed after the fact, even though he went out like a hero saving Soval, it just felt flat. It was a bit of a damp squib of an ending. Although going out as a hero, quite frankly, Forrest deserved better. Hi, I'm Tom Larkin. Last time I told you about my GTN blog. Don't tell Starfleet. Thanks, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform designed to help entrepreneurs stand out online. Squarespace allows me to link my social and multimedia accounts in just a few clicks, so you can see everything that GTN has to report, including things Starfleet doesn't want you to know. Squarespace uses Daystrom-approved design intelligence AI technology. Take control and build a beautiful, personalized website catered to your needs. SEO doodads, so you show up to more civilizations more often, but beware, Section 31 is a thing. Go to squarespace.com/TrekCulture, where you will get a free trial and 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And remember, don't tell Starfleet. What did you think? Is there any that you think should be on this list? As I said, Archer got some people killed. There can be a sequel. Do let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much. Please make sure you're following on the various socials. I'm at Sean Ferrick, and we are, of course, at TrekCulture. We love you. There we go. Sounded like I was about to pitch something. I wasn't. We just love you. You're brilliant. Thank you so much. Live long and prosper. And remember, it's been a long road. I don't sing. Okay, bye.